Everybody is pretty well aware of this. I think it's been hashed out. Big news. It was coming. It's been clear since June. Mamdani was going to take this thing after the Cuomo attempt at even a lower office than he occupied previously. Just showed a campaign that had no support really behind it. Um, I think what I take away this week, right? You hear the common consensus. Everybody says, "Oh, this is where the country's going. This is the precursor to midterms. Republicans watch out. Democrats going to take the House. We'll show Polymarket next. How this kind of changed where markets are showing. They see the probabilities for the big election cycle next year, congressional midterms. But here's how I read this. So you do have an upstart. Mamdani comes in, highly charismatic individual. Does he actually represent kind of policies that have broad public support, right? And I think we're risking overreacting to this one thing on Tuesday, missing the forest for the trees that this one was kind of a shoe-in for Mamdani in the first place. Like you're looking at Andrew Cuomo, who has no political support. Kind of the what he represents would be a 20th century New York City political dynasty. That's how Mamdani is kind of framing this. We took down a dynasty. That's true. That's how these things rise and fall in politics. And your father holds office, son holds office, gets booted out of office, and then the lineage is over at that point. Is typically how it'll go. But Andrew Cuomo, after kind of peaking in the pandemic of the heyday, February and March of 2020, he's just been person non grata ever since. Um, so for him to just completely faceplant and not deliver here when the legacy establishment did not want to see Mamdani, ultimately win this. What it really shows to me is, all right, focus first on the Democratic Party itself. The old guard has lost control, like they've handed over power, similar to what we saw with the Trump movement. Once he launched his campaign in 2014, he went on to take down the political dynasties. Who was the next in the Bush sequence? Jeb Bush. I mean, he just completely eviscerated that campaign when Jeb Bush was supposed to be the Republican frontrunner heading into 2016. Similar scenarios. So I think what this represents really, like if you're looking for a leading indicator, it's the old guard and the who were kind of at the helms of the Democratic, party establishment, that one half of the uniparty coalition, as some people will call it. They're losing their old guard. This is just another one kind of showing the writings on the wall. Um, you see another headline this week with Nancy Pelosi announcing her retirement, kind of buried below the fold on this news. That's your signal. Things are changing. So the same way the Republican Party, went under new management in the 2010s, I think we're starting to see that come along. Now, is that actually going to have broad appeal across the country? That's where, get into the comparison, compare and contrast New York to the rest of the country. The rest of America does not look like New York, doesn't vote like New York either. Um, when you look at this race, you see two candidates, Mamdani and Cuomo. They're on the left. One of them is further to the left than the other, but I don't know that either of these two candidates would do well nationwide or appeal nationwide. And the fact that it was so close, like Mamdani only beat Cuomo, which I've called maybe internally, and this is pretty harsh, but he's basically a candidate that has all the appeal of warmed up leftovers from 2020, right? No one wants this guy. There's a reason he couldn't get over the hump. And, when he started as the favorite up until June, and the campaign just, completely face planted, there's a reason for that, right? But even still, Cuomo was within flipping 1 in 20 voters of winning this thing, right? If he could just peel back, 5%, swing it over to the Cuomo camp, would have been a nail biter, photo finish horse race. So 1 in 20 is all it takes. Now, does does the New York City electorate look anything like your congressional district in Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, like Pennsylvania? I think demographics say no, right? So if you go to the next slide, and this has been the common consensus in the kind of snap emotional reaction to the result on Tuesday, which everybody knew was coming. It's been an immediate flip to say, oh my gosh, the Republicans are in trouble of losing the House. And those odds after the New York City election result, largely, a couple other Democrats won governorship races like Virginia, New Jersey. Um, that really made Tuesday look good for the Democrats. You saw the betting platforms, right here it shows like mark to market as of our recording time, odds to win the majority control of the House in 2026, 69 to 32%, right? It's going to be above 100% just because it's a market making. You got to have the 1 cent bid ask in a tight market is the best you can do. But it's basically like 70%, yeah, or like just handicap it roughly 2 to 1 odds that the Democrats will win control in 2026. The Republicans will be looking at it, or the Trump administration will be looking at a second half of the term and without control of at least one of the two houses of Congress. I don't know actually if we're overreacting to that, right? And we're thinking about this like very kind of just brashly, I think, right now, just given where the economy is, where financial markets are, we've got the government shutdown going on. I would say there's still a lot of game to be played for at least the first half of 2026 to see how this plays out and how things go in November. But yeah, I'd say overall interesting development. Like if you had zoomed out and asked everybody 20 years ago whether you saw this candidate winning a New York City mayoral race, everybody would say not in this universe, right? Um, but I think if you zoom out, just take that for what it is. That is surprising, I think, over the long time frame. But if you're looking at the developments on how, every week on the roundup, we talk about the major or the headlines beneath the surface that are driving tomorrow, right? Or driving towards this outcome of where we're going in the big picture. I don't know that Tuesday was actually as high signal of a leading indicator as what it's currently being made out to be.